I'm Gary Cole and you're listening to The Football Coaching Life, a podcast brought to you by Football Coaches Australia and Making Media, the podcast professionals. These are the stories of Australia's men and women, coaches we entrust with the development of our players and teams. In the main, the stories haven't been told. We're honoured today, and I'll make someone I coached a lifetime ago for a season. I'd forgotten about that at Heidelberg. Welcome from Yokohama, or should we say konnichiwa, Kevin Muscat.
How are you, Gaz?
Yeah, I'm really well, mate. I'm really well. Let's introduce you properly and then we'll jump in and get this going. Muskie, bomber to his mates, has had a remarkable football journey, has played well over 550 professional games of football in the NSL with Sunshine George Cross, a brief stint at Heidelberg and then 4 or 5 years with South Melbourne. In the English Premier League for a little while with Crystal Palace, in the Championship with Palace, with Wolverhampton Wanderers and with Millwall. In the Scottish Premier League, where they won a treble that year with Rangers. Didn't get to play in an old firm Derby. I'm sure we'll talk about that today. 2 Youth World Cups, the Atalanta Olympics, over 50 games for the Socceroos. Just remarkable. Some of the honours through that playing period: 3 Confederations Cup, 2 Nations Cups with Oceania, 2 championships as a player with Melbourne Victory, 2 premierships, a pre-season cup with the Victory, that treble with the Scottish Championship, Scottish Cup and the League Cup with Rangers, an FA Cup runners-up medal with Millwall and Dennis Wise. I'm sure there's some great stories there. With South Melbourne, an NSL Premiership, 2 Doherty Cups and an NSL Cup. And then he moved into his coaching journey, and he's now coached in the A-League, obviously with Melbourne Victory, in Belgium with Sint-Truiden, hopefully I said that right, and in the J-League with Yokohama F Mariners, where he's currently the manager that's just had his contract extended. Huge bloody introduction, that Muskie. That's cost you some money, that is. Welcome to the Football Coaching Life, mate.
Thanks, Gaz. Your memories are flooding back, mate, but it seems a world ago, all that sort of stuff. But thank you all the same.
No, mate, it's great to have you on board. So we're just talking offline. You're back in Yokohama, back in quarantine at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, whilst back in Melbourne over Christmas and New Year, over that period, as most of the world, is the moving parts of this pandemic that we're in. The quarantine period was extended from originally 3 days when I left to 14 days. So it is what it is, and we're well versed now in transferring information as coaches remotely, and I've had good experience before arriving for my back in July, August. So had some good experience throughout that period about working remotely. So it's an extension, really, if you like. We started pre-season a couple of days, and this day and age, I'm watching training almost live, and having meetings with the staff prior to training and doing everything that we'd normally do, but obviously not in person. So yeah, it's been challenging, but that's all it is, a challenge.
Yeah. Now, your big mate Ange has done you a great favour in helping you get over there, but now he's knifed you, mate. He's nicked your number one striker, Daisy Maeda, who's now on loan at Celtic. How do you go about replacing him when it's hard to get people into the country? Yeah,
it's again, it's just how things work, and I think that's sort of it's like having goal scorers in your team, guys. There, and the first thing that happened when I went to Sint-Truiden, you mentioned earlier, the first bit of business within 24 hours was selling our top scorer. Then, so this time round, when I arrived here, same thing. The window opened, and obviously we lost our top scorer midway through the season when I come in July, August, and the same things happened this window. So hopefully that's the trifecta now, and every window that comes along, we don't end up losing our top scorer, whoever that might be at the given time.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. They those strikers that score goals on a regular basis don't fall out of trees, do they?
No, and compounded to the situation in Japan at the moment, they're not accepting or issuing any new visas, solely current visas and residents who are able to enter the country. So bringing foreigners into the country at this point in time. There's too much unpredictability about it because, firstly, you don't know when they're going to allow visas to be issued. Secondly, then you've got to go through that process of getting the visa. Then you've got to go through the process of quarantine, whatever that may look like. It's mainly been 14 days here. Then you've got to integrate into the side. So at this point in time, our strategies maybe changed slightly in relation to, as you alluded to, how we replace those goals from Dizan. Like I said, so our strategy now has taken a swift U-turn, and we're looking at other possibilities and other options. And again, it's a challenge, and that's all it is. It's a challenge, and rather worrying about why it's happened or what we can do. It's about finding a solution, and we're well down that path at this stage.
And there's more and more Japanese players, it seems, playing in Europe nowadays as well, Muskie. So I'm sure strikers are heading on planes to the big town.
It's very, what I've found, there's been quite a few, but I suppose it's probably hit the mainstream media a little bit more in maybe the last 6 months, 12 months, because there's always been an influx, a huge number of Japanese, and there's a synergy with Australia as well. A lot of players have got that ambition to, for all intents and purposes, better their careers or whatever it may be, from a football perspective and financial perspective and all those type of things. But I think it's taken a little bit more of a lot more of the mainstream media now, with obviously the players that have gone to the Premiership in the last months, because there's a high number of Japanese players in Germany, in Belgium, but it's possibly not the mainstream media, if you like, so it hasn't had that much attention. But players going to the Premier League, and now Celtic taking 3 or 4 Japanese players as well, and it's all about the markets as well, because it's now seen as a market that's really good value for these teams in Europe.
Yeah, and I guess most people are going to say that the Japanese players are pretty good technically as well.
Yeah, without doubt, and we've as a nation, Australia, we've felt that and seen that firsthand, certainly playing against them all those years ago. I think they've started to add a little bit more to their game. And, you look at, Dizan, for example, because I can speak about him firsthand. He goes across to Celtic, and it's not going to be the case where, he's going to be pushed around physically, and he's going to find it tough in terms of matching the Europeans in terms of their athleticism or speed. It's he breaks the mold from that perspective. So there's a number of players who may be identified, the pillars that are needed to be successful abroad, and he's a classic example of that. And I've no doubt that he'll be a massive hit, and I'm looking forward to watching him play, albeit not for Mariners this season. Yeah.
Muskie, where's Japanese football overall? You obviously had a stint in Belgium, and we'll come back to that a bit later. But you coached in the A-League for 5 or 6 seasons. You played obviously for a long while, and when you're in the midst of the old saying is sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. But how would you compare the A-League to the J-League and the football in the countries right now?
Yeah. Oh, it's a difficult one, Gaz, because I think, but being transparent and trying to answer not trying to answer the question is, with pure honesty, the J-League actual standard of the competition is a very, very high level. Without doubt, for me, the best technical and tactical level in Asia. So it's possibly, and it's got a good head start in terms of the development of the league, in terms of how long it's been around, and they went down a different path, as you remember, Gaz. There was a huge influx of Brazilian players, from the outset. So that set a standard in terms of, you can see that what type of vision they had for the league going forward. And now we're down many decades down the track, and you can see the first thing you mentioned to me was technically the Japanese players seem to be superior and very good, and that comes back to it's obviously embryonic stages when there was that influx of a lot of Brazilian coaches, a lot of Brazilian players. And that has its positives, and it also has some things that as we alluded to earlier, that there's other parts of their game, the physicality, not only strength but speed and more importantly repeat efforts and all those type of things that over time I've seen develop. And more recent years, obviously Ange coming to Japan, then Japanese football took a greater interest for all of us, if you like, me in particular, having followed Ange's career thoroughly. That there's another thing to the Japanese football that maybe is not holding them back, but not propelling them forward, and that's the conservative nature of the culture of the people. And from that perspective, I think in life, I think it's a beautiful thing because it's a wonderful place to live, because the way the people conduct themselves and the culture of the country and the people in it. From a football perspective as well, you've seen, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, that that was challenged first and foremost by Ange, because from a footballing relationship, it was no, we're not going to be conservative. And I can imagine the challenges. Well, I do know the challenges speaking to him at the time. That the challenges that no, we're not going to be conservative, and we're not going to do what we've done previously, and because everyone's doing. And then, but it's got to the point now where there's so much diversity in the competition in terms of we talk about formations, and I get a little bit talking about formations is not really relevant, I don't think, but there's so many different formations, but more importantly, there's so many different game models. There's so many different ways coaches are implementing how they perceive to bring success. So it's becoming very, very challenging from that perspective, that the mold's being broken at the moment in relation to the conservativeness surrounding the football, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. We'll jump into your coaching story shortly. The one other thing, obviously, we mentioned you're in quarantine again there right now. You came back home for the first time in a couple of years to catch up with your family. You're coaching in Japan. That's a choice. You want to grow your capability. I know you want to coach in Europe. How is it being a professional coach and dealing with the family? I'm sure it's tough even without COVID. But how have you and your family coped with you being a professional coach and having the last couple of years that you've had?
It was, I suppose, to get a real true reflection, you'd possibly have to ask them. But from all the feedback I get from them, I've had unbelievable support, and I suppose the biggest, because my partner Vicky, that's no issue, and we can pack up and move whenever needed or whenever wanted. Mum and dad, obviously, mum and dad, they support you in the good and the bad times and all that sort of. But it was more around the kids, Olivia and James, and that was part of my thinking about, when I decided that I wanted to take this adventure. They'd got to an age where, and I could sit down and have discussions with them in relation to, what my ambitions were and, what I wanted to do. And the response was great from them. They were at an age where they could really, think for themselves. And it was more along the lines of, that's what you want to do, Dad, follow your dreams and all those type of things. And at the time it was, James, and we'll book you a flight, you'll come over in 3 months and I'll see you in 3 months. And Olivia, you'll come over in November, blah, blah. So that was all great because we had the next 12 months planned out. And then obviously for that period of time, we couldn't travel because I arrived in Europe late 19 and obviously, early 20, that's when, the outbreak commenced and hence I couldn't get back. Well, I could get back, but I had a fear of not being able to get out. If that, it sounded like I'm crazy, but they were the rules in place by our illustrious leader. that getting out of the country was almost impossible. So we decided to stay in Europe, and like I said, it was valuable time I got to spend with James and Olivia and the family over the last month back in Australia.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it all works out and you manage to see more than enough of them. I've learned just how important family is to us in recent times. So, yeah, keep it up, mate. All right, let's jump into this coaching journey of yours. I know the answer to the first question because I think I'll write the contract which gave you a title as a coach. But how did you get into coaching?
Oh, yeah, it was that, Gaz. I mean, it was only when I was finishing up when I was in the UK and decided to come home, and all the conversations I had with you, and that was it was at that stage then when and like you said, we had the discussions, and it was a part that I wanted to explore more. I thought I had the attributes to give me the opportunity to see if it was something I was any good at. So it was, and through yourself as well, of the guidance and counsel from yourself, that we put things into place where I could start my badges and doing my coach education whilst I was playing and finishing my career. And possibly I thought it would have happened a lot, maybe a year or 2 or 3 earlier, but it was probably your fault that I played another year and then another year and then another year. So albeit I get unbelievable criticism for playing maybe outstaying my welcome too long, I tend to try and share that blame with you, Gaz.
Yeah. We all learn from our mistakes, must we?
Yeah.
Did you do any coach courses when you were still a pro in the UK?
No. And it was one of those things, and maybe we would say and you don't really know. You always think to yourself, I want to stay in the game. And as a player, I think you start off with saying, well, the next best thing to playing is coaching. So you start to have those. But when you're playing, I think that if you start thinking about, particularly at my age when I was still in Europe, in the UK, if you start thinking about that, you diluting what you should be focusing on, which is your playing career.
Yeah.
Coming back to Australia, it was a little bit different, only because as well there's so much more time on our hands when you get back to Australia, that in terms of the number of games that you play, albeit you're still effectively almost active for 10 months or whatever it is, but 50% of that, possibly even more, is a pre-season. So and you start to think about what the future looks like, and I always felt that, and we will get into it a bit later, I always felt that I had those leadership qualities, because I'm without doubt, being a coach, a head coach, you're a leader of some form. So it doesn't mean that if you're a leader of a team and you're a captain that that's where you're going to fall into. But I thought to myself, well, this is what I want to have a crack at some point in time. So slowly, and I took my time, as in relation to getting my badges done, and just giving it a lot of thought over that period as well.
Yeah. I'm guessing it was nice. I don't want to answer the question for you, but you rolled within a fantastic organisation at the time, from playing into an assistant coaching role. Got a little bit harem scarum there, because you were assistant to, I think, four coaches over a pretty short period, because the club made some interesting changes and choices. But nice to be able to roll within the same organisation, from playing into a coaching arena where the people, the culture, what's expected. And then obviously into that, your first senior coaching role.
You're right, Gaz, and I took away a hell of a lot of learnings from that period as well. And it just goes without saying, it's inevitable that every organisation is going to go through a period of indifference or different results or whatever it may be. And it just so coincided that, and I was, an assistant coach for a number of years, but, you've been there as well, the influence that I had within that, period of time was, it wasn't, it was, small steps, real small steps. And, initially when, I was, had a title, if you like, of an assistant coach, I really wasn't, doing too much at all. It was more about observing and understanding and at the time, understanding what, yourself and Ernie and the people that were in charge were doing. And then, as you said, we had a period of time there where there was, wasn't a great deal of stability to be able to attach yourself to someone to learn about, how they influence the football club with their football, until obviously Ange come along, and that was the trigger, if you like. That was the moment for me where it really challenged me, and it really provoked me to get out of my comfort zone, and actually bona fide become, that was the first period of time where I thought, well, now I'm coaching. Now I'm a bona fide assistant coach, and I suppose we'll get into that a bit later on. But that period in time was just one to look back on now, where I crammed in maybe for many years of learning into a short period of time.
Yeah. When you on your fantastic professional football career, I in thinking about this. Someone asked me, you got to ask Kevin about how has he dealt with, he obviously had white line fever as a player, but he can't have white line fever as a coach. That's not allowable. And I don't know, I was just thinking about Dennis Wise, and Wisey was a little bit white line feverish as well. How have you dealt with that competitive nature that makes you want to just everything in you, every fibre in your body wants to win, and you do that? How have you dealt with that personally?
I think I'm possibly in a very good place to actually influence and deal with that, because, as you said, I've been through most of those situations that current players or players that I've worked with, and Bessart was the best example, because he was probably very like-minded in relation to his win at all costs approach, and I felt that I was able to strike a relationship with him, and the fact that it's the old war story, of telling him situations I've put myself in, and how it affected me and how it affected the team, and because I've actually been through that path or walked down that path, I suppose has I'd like to think it had a greater influence, particularly on him, and he's still erred, but make no mistake, he was a pleasure to work with. At times he was difficult to work with, but I believe that as a football club, and myself, I believe that I got the best out of him. And he was rewarded personally for that, with his performances and his successes. But just as importantly, if not more important, the team and the football club was rewarded.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
As a player, Muskie, was there a particular coach that you thought had the most impact on you?
Yeah, it's only, it's not that at the time you think of it, Gaz, because and the era that I was playing, and obviously being in the UK, it was a certain era, and it was you enjoyed yourself quite a bit as well, and times changed as the years have gone by, particularly when I was finishing playing. So you don't really think of it at the time, because you don't really, at that point in time, it's not something that I thought, well, this is the path. I think deep down, it was always in the back of my head somewhere saying, well, I want to get into coaching, but it's not something at the front of your mind where you think, I'm going to start, paying attention to, why we're doing that, or, type thing. So, looking back now, there was influences from near enough everyone that I'd worked with for different reasons. Because there's the football side of things where you start to develop probably subconsciously, how you like the game to be played and how you want to play the game. There's the management side of managing staff that you probably don't pay any attention to because you're not close enough to. There's the management of people, the players. And again, you're probably more conscious of that because it's directly, the relationship directly with you and the manager, or the manager and a teammate, or the manager and with somebody that speaks in the change room about what's happened. So it's probably a little bit more. So I'd say that I learned, or looking back now, I take learnings from, because at the time I didn't know I was learning. I take learnings from quite a few of the coaches that I work with. I think from a tactical, from a purely football perspective, and I had the pleasure of working with Terry Venables, and looking back now at what we were doing and the way he trained and the way he communicated, a lot of that stuff resonates with me because we done things differently from a football perspective, and now looking back at them, you can put the pieces together. Oh, that's that's how he liked to play, and that's why we train like this. And so there's many things from different coaches over the years that looking back on now that I still got some. My memory's not great, as you know, Gaz, but I've still got some things that flash, through my memory bank, if you like, that has helped me, I suppose, become the person or the coach that I am.
I think I read somewhere in doing some background stuff for this that you
don't believe everything you read, Gaz.
No, of course not. That's why I'm doing a fact check.
That's how perceptions are created.
Knowing how competitive you are, that season at Rangers where you won the treble, Alex McLeish wouldn't pick you in an Old Firm derby. Now, everyone wants to know why that was and what you learned from that, because you've said in the media that you learned from that.
Well, the truth is, only he knows. But I've probably, like the article suggested, I've got a fair idea. It was, looking back now, there's no regrets. I had an unbelievable year in Glasgow, and got to play with my best mate, and got to play with Craig Moore, and played in a really, really good team, and exceptional footballing team. And going up there, and the first one actually, like the first game. Long story short, guys. Anyway, I played the first, I can't remember, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, whatever it was, and we'd won all the games. The next game was the Old Firm game, and I was rooming with Maury. We were in a hotel the night before. Anyway, game day comes, we're going down for the meeting, the phone rings, Maury answers the phone, and he says, "Oh, the gaffer wants to see you in his room." So I went up to the gaffer's room, and I'm, at this point, I'm thinking, wow. And he goes, anyway, just told me I wasn't playing, basically. So anyway, I had to, take that in the chin. The reasoning, for at the time, the reasoning was, he wanted to play the fullback that played in the cup final the season before or whatever. So I got a long-winded. And if anything, that's the only thing that, again, that I've learned from it. It's helped me, I suppose, be the person that I am now. That I believe that, walking away from that, I thought, that can't be right. Like there's more to that. And if anything now, it's taught me, and the way I like to. The truth stings. The truth stings like hell, Gaz, but it heals quickly. Whereas, not the truth, or something close to the truth that cuts and lasts a long time. So that's helped me be or to help me understand what the players prefer and how to keep that respect and integrity intact.
Yeah, no, so it's the whole trust issue thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So then,
by the way, sorry guys, I got myself back in the team. Quick story. And then he done it to me again. So at that point, I thought, well, clearly, obviously, and I can understand. I've had a conversation with him, with Alex McLeish from it was a couple of years ago when I was back in London, and He didn't. I didn't put him on the spot to go into the detail, but I sort of said, look, you know, it's clear that you couldn't trust me, or you didn't think you could trust me. So I understand now, being a manager myself, that you had to make these decisions, and I think he appreciated the fact that I actually brought it up, and we moved on, and now that being a coach, I understand that you have to make these decisions based on what you think's best, and that's the way he went.
Yeah, and not too shabby. You still got three medals at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was a good timing. It's all about yourself being a goal scorer, Gaz. If your timing's not right, you don't get the biscuits. And my timing was perfect, impeccable when I went to Rangers.
Very good. So then, Muskie, what is coaching?
Yeah, Gaz. Ultimately, you're in a position, if you're whatever you're coaching or whatever you're doing, you're seen as the first leader. So at that point in time, everything you say, every action that you make, there's a group of people as the first leader that are looking at. So from that perspective, you're a communicator, and you're basically transferring information, and the information is obviously the knowledge that you've built based on your game style or your philosophy and all those things. But ultimately, you're somebody who's delivering that information and communicating with people. So in its purest form, in its rawest form, you're actually teaching. You're trying to relay information from an idea, your vision from an idea to people. So you're communicating. So ultimately, for me, coaching is about relationships and people. It's pure as simple as that. So it has so many synergies to everything else that we do in life, because whether it's not coaching, it's everything revolves around relationships. Yeah. So ultimately, for me, it's understanding, first of all, gain that knowledge. And experience and knowledge can be confused, I think, Gaz, because just because you've a certain age, or you've watched a certain amount of games, and that says you've experienced those events. Yeah. But what knowledge have we taken out of those events? Because I try and distance myself from experience, and I go down the knowledge road a little bit more. So it's how do I transfer this information to a group of people where they can absorb what I'm saying, because ultimately I'm building an environment here where it's about them, and giving them the opportunity to be the best that they can be. And if they feel as a personship, and they feel that they've got a relationship with me, that my intentions and my sole intentions are to provide an environment that you can be your best in, or anyone can be their best in, it gives you a greater opportunity to be able to transfer that information. Then the level of the way you transfer, and I'm going through a different situation at the moment, because I don't speak the language, and most of the guys don't speak English. So there's another layer to that there, but it starts from way back, what I said earlier. It's about that everybody in that room, classroom, dressing room, whatever it is, needs to feel that they're in the best environment for them to be the best they can. And then the rest obviously is communication, and the way you communicate.
I like that a lot, mate. Thanks for that. I had down there as one of the questions that the whole you not speaking Japanese and they not speaking English means there's interpreter or interpreters involved. One of the things that went through my head is that you say something, the translator translates that, and the players hear it. How as a coach can you be sure that the way it's being translated, or the message as it comes from you, gets delivered with that same sort of emphasis? Can you do that? Is that something that you've gone, oh look, I'm pretty sure I just told him it was red, and they're looking at me like it was green?
Yeah. And then to take that a step further before I answer your question, Gaz, and then taking the human element to that, where, you know, you might be wanting to be slightly more, I might want to be slightly more assertive, or I want to be slightly more passive because the individual I'm talking to or the group of people. And then you're asking somebody to also, you know, become some sort of actor, because you're asking not only to transfer information, but transfer it in a certain emotion. So it is with great difficulty, and I had long conversations with Ange and other people about this. The translator is key, and it's fairly important. Obviously, the actual message getting across, you know, all our meetings are recorded. So there's a number of other people that do watch the meetings, and then you know, sports directors. You know, one of the sports directors, a great support. He speaks, you know, very good English, so he's watching. So there's less room for how can you say, misinterpretation or misdial. And you know, fortunately for me, the Yuchi, the translator here, he's had a he had a career in football, and so he loves the game. He's not just a translator; he's a football translator, so to speak. So he loves the game, and he actually loves the team, and he's bought into everything about the way we play, and you know the way we press and whatever we do. And so he doesn't need any encouragement in terms of the emotion. He's well in tune with that. Very, very hard to find, but very important. Very important.
No, I like that. Muskie, you're still young in coach years. You know, we go to the same barber. Obviously, Days and May, you know, he and he share a barber as well. Maybe that's a club thing. I'm not quite sure, but
my choice, guys.
How has your coaching changed and evolved so far?
Yeah.
Or has your coaching changed and evolved so far?
It has to. It has to, guys. It would be naive of anyone not to think that their coaching has evolved, because you know, first and foremost, society's changed, and you know, you're dealing with different you know, different era of people, and the current crop, you know, the younger boys coming in now that you know, 17, 18s, and 19s are, you know, culturally and just socially a lot different to, you know, how, you know, so you've got to feel that, and you've got to absorb that, and you've got to adapt to it. So your delivery and your coaching has changed, but you know, ultimately, and it also changes, guys, because not only the people, but football changes. You know, there's trends that are happening. So, you know, if you're stood still, you're being taken over. So it's the same thing with your coaching. You have to evolve. Of course, there's you know, some principles and the way I like to see football played that, you know, remain constant, and they always will be, because ultimately it's, you know, if I start wavering on those things, then you don't deliver anything with belief, and you know what it's like when you're in a room full of people, and you know, belief can be sniffed out, you know, from a very, very long way away. So you know, so the moment you know, trying to deliver something or trying to build something, and you don't possibly believe in it, be sure that everybody can notice it.
Yeah, no, I agree. People pick up on that stuff
for sure.
No, that's good. Thank you, Muskie. I've sort of assumed that Ange has been a bit of a mentor to you, only because of the sort of journey that you've gone through and followed.
Yeah.
Is he a mentor? Is he someone that you can pick up the phone to on this? Just press pause for a sec. As a bit of a background, that's one of the questions that we've asked on this show over the years, and it's incredible. Some people have had, you know, a mentor. Some people have had 2 or 3 people. Some people have had people within football. Some people don't want someone within football, but they talk to someone that helps them with leadership and culture outside. And other people go, no, I haven't done that. Yeah, I might. It just varies so wildly. So it's a really interesting question about, you know, have you had someone in your journey where you can pick up the phone and have a good conversation about football and know that they've got your best interest?
Yeah. I think, well, for me, guys, you know, being a mentor is, someone that, definition for me is someone that you can trust implicitly, and, can give you counsel.
Yeah.
So without doubt, my family, my father, my mother, and it's not footballing mentoring stuff, but it's naturally just, obviously they've had a great influence on who I am as a person. So, there's that side of things where it's, from a character perspective and from who I am, but from a football perspective, without doubt, Ange, I'd certainly call a mentor. I've been certainly grateful for that. I suppose, how can you say, I can pick up the phone at any day, any time, any hour, and knowing that, he has an interest in what I do and how I go, and he follows. Some of the times, it goes to the point where, I'll, wake up and see a message on the phone, and, Ange just sent a message, his time at 6:30 in the morning or something. Mate, watched that game yesterday, like out of nowhere, so it, without doubt. And also for the fact that, going back to what I said earlier about Ange, when he come to the football club, I was fortunate enough from an outside, have a look at what he was doing at Brisbane and how he revolutionised, and I don't use that word lightly, Australian football, what he was doing in Brisbane. And at that point in time, as you said, we had in different years, and, there was one or two opportunities where I was, sounded out whether I wanted to interview for the job, and I just didn't feel it was right. And then waiting for the next coach to come in, and, like it was one of those, and, we'd gone through a few in that 2-year period. And then Ange comes in, and they told me that Ange is coming in and he's got the job, and that's when penny dropped to me. I said, first and foremost, I've got to make sure that I'm going to be here when he gets here, because as we know that sometimes your coaches bring in their own people, but fortunately Ange, I still remember the first conversation he had. Fortunately for me, he. I was going to be part of his team, and that's when I made the decision based on where I wanted to go, and loosely being an assistant and all those things. And then I thought to myself, well, from what I could see, and I love football, as you know, Gaz, and really passionate about a way of playing football. And I won't just say attacking football, because attacking football can be derived in many, many, many ways. There's a certain style as well within attacking football that I appreciate. So I thought to myself, mate, when Ange gets here, I've had some history with him, and he was a coach when I was a young boy, when I left Heidelberg with you guys. So I had a relationship, but over the years, period of time, I didn't have a great deal of contact with him. And I just made a concerted effort, right, if I'm going to truly find out if this is what I want to do now, and if I want to become a coach. And I said to myself, right, I'm going to immerse myself, I'm going to take myself out of my comfort zone. Ange would recall back, and I remember that, I've heard stories from Ange that, people say that, I was sat in a flight with him for 15 hours and he didn't say a word. I've heard many people say, well, I didn't really give him the opportunity, because I was asking questions, and, I was following him I just immersed myself in his world, whilst, being an assistant coach, because I wanted to, because everyone can see, Brisbane played a certain way, and Ange played a certain way. But the next question for me that was bringing out, how do you do it? How do you implement this? Because, it can't just be an idea. You have to, the idea has to come to fruition. So that's where it all started for me, guys, where, I immersed myself in annoying him. And maybe, looking back at it now, the relationship I've got with him, maybe he could, that triggered in him, how much I was wanting to learn, and how far I was wanting to go. So that started the whole, wheel in motion for me. And I also knew as well in the back of my mind, I've been around the game, for a few years, and I thought, he's not going to be here forever. He's not going to, in fact, he's not even going to be here for a long time. So I didn't think it was going to be the year and months that he was there, but so I thought, I'm not going to waste a moment here. And I went on a journey with him, and he decided to play without a striker that year, and everybody again was thinking, "Wow, what's this?" And we were playing some, but fantastic football. But from I was more inquisitive about the process of how we implement that into a team for it to look like this idea. And that's where I got unbelievable learnings from that season with him, amongst other things. Like I said, following him to press conferences, he'd turn around sometimes and he'd bump into me, and he must be thinking, I just followed him around everywhere.
I love it. Thanks for that insight. Thanks for sharing that, mate. That's terrific. I think one of the other things that I really wasn't aware of till I spoke to him and did a bit of research, he's also, because of the way he was sort of treated, you know, after he had the young Socceroos and then the infamous incident with on SBS, and you know, he had to go to Greece to get a coaching gig and came back and found it really hard to get a job again. He's gone out of his way to give young Aussies, young Australian coaches opportunities, you know, taking people across the containers as assistants and that, which is you know, another, but it's a great pat on the back for Ange and just the way he is and the legend that he continues to build and grow, isn't it?
And that'll be amongst other things, that'll be part of the legacy that he leaves behind, because you know, all of a sudden he inspired over a period of time, even the coaches that he hasn't worked with directly. I assume there'd be many, you know, coaches reaching out to him because he inspired a generation. You know, he's the single most reason he inspired a generation of coaches, if you like, on their own journey through his vision and through his football. You know, I couldn't be any more grateful for the opportunity to work with him and still to call him a friend and as you mentioned earlier, a great sounding board and a mentor. Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that, mate. How about other sports, Muskie? Have you used, is anyone from other sports, is there any, have you done any research or looked at other sports and the way they go about doing what they do?
Yeah, I have, and fortunately, as you know too well, being in the environment we were in Melbourne there, I've become fairly close with Craig Bellamy. You know, he'd you know, annually he'd spend some time with us, you know, 3 or 4 days with us, and I'd do the same 3 or 4 days with them, and just to bouncing. I struggle, not struggle. Struggle's not the right word. I don't. I have my love for football far outweighs any room really to really get into any other sport. I'm not really. I like them all. I like every sport, but I don't really, you know, get into it where I'm really passionate or like any other sport. So I find it hard from a sports perspective to engage, but from a you know, cultural perspective and the way you conduct yourself and a life perspective, without doubt, you know, you know, Frank Panisi is another one, Gaz, you know, spending, you know, at the Melbourne Storm, you know, these guys have got unbelievable knowledge, and it might not be about, you know, how to keep possession of the ball or how do we transition the ball, but it might be about, you know, how do you get the best out of him, and, you know, issues they've had with, you know, person A and how they went about that. And I know that for a fact that you yourself as well, that they've got such a strong environment that strong environment, strong culture, where it is a people first environment that, you know, we transferred, and, you know, unashamedly say we transferred into, you know, our organisation when we were at Victory.
You know, it's a remarkable culture and one that just keeps being successful. You know, they're also governed by a salary cap, which makes life difficult to get, you know, exactly who you want when you want. But their ability to keep doing it year in, year out is quite remarkable. Couldn't agree more. So, Muskie, why do you do it? Why do you coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, there's a little bit I touched on it just there, that, you know, it is my passion. It's the one thing that you know, outside of family, that really encapsulates me and really gets all my attention. I mean, I've loved it I've loved the game from a very young age, and a lot resonates to, you know, Ange's story as well. You know, Ange speaks. I keep coming back to Ange because, you know, about his father and his family, and, you know, with coming across, it was, you know, the generation that I did as well, my pet family, and a lot of what he speaks about his father, you know, resonates with me and many other coaches and players through that era with players coming across, with families coming across to Australia. but I don't know. I just I feel comfortable. Like I said, I wanted to ascertain myself whether I had the attributes to be able to influence a group, be able to be I don't want to say good at it, but become make a career out of it. That's probably a better way to put it. Make a career out of it, and just because the game, apart from obviously my family, the game, and my family's been involved in every part of my career. That it's given me so much joy. It's given everything that revolves around whether it was as a kid going to a christening, or it had to revolve around the game. Or we can't have the party at 10 o'clock on Sunday because we got to go. Like everything revolved around football, and now I look at it now, and why do I continue to do it? I've still get the rush, to be in an environment where you see people better themselves, and you see a group of people be successful, and success can be measured in many different ways. And I think when you talk success, you've really got to understand the definition of success at that moment in time to be able to really enjoy it. So I think for me, it's an opportunity to be involved with a group of people, like-minded people, to be able to propel and give an opportunity to people to be the best they possibly can, hopefully through the knowledge that I've gained, be able to transfer that along to a team.
Yeah, no, I like that, mate. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You had a few challenges during your playing career. When you left Melbourne Victory, you got to do that under your own terms. Not a lot of coaches have that opportunity to determine when the right time to walk away is. And then the exact opposite of that at St. Truden in Belgium, where it all finished after 13 or 14 games. You are, I would say that you are a resilient character, but how important has resilience and developing resilience been for you as a person, and how do you go about instilling that, helping the players to become more resilient?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 14 games, guys, but
sorry, Muskie, bad research.
No, because the first 6 months I was effectively.
I'm glad I messed that up, because I've got a question about that. So I'll come back. My mistake. My apologies.
The first 6 months I was effectively not on paper the head coach, but I was effectively running the football team. So anyway, it's not. I understand the question, but I had to get that off my chest, because I keep reading 14 games, guys. You can tell it's not been annoying me, eh?
No, not at all. Would you like me to rephrase that question, Muscat?
No, all good. Of course, Gaz. I mean, you touched on earlier, the relationship I had, and I'd like to think I've still got with the football club was deep, and it was it was hard for me to, as you said, I still had a year on my contract, and it got to the point where my kids were at a certain age, like I said, and got to the point where I'd grown up, and growing up, I thought my only dream was because watching the FA Cup finals at silly hours in the morning with my dad, and that's almost at the start, that's all the football we could watch, and my dream was to go and play in Europe, and particularly go and play in England. At that time, that was my dream. That's what I wanted to do. And then, so I go across and I do that, and then it started, dawning on me. Well, the kids are getting older now, and I can have these discussions with the kids, and I've almost, I've got their blessing. I want Dad to fulfill his ambitions and his dreams. So I thought, I want to give this a crack. I want to give it a crack. So I was almost, reliving my youth. I want to go across, whether it's Asia or Europe, and then to take the, what I did do, guys. I said, well, I've possibly at this point in time, we've created what we've created, and the club's created what they've created. I've been a part of it for so long, and it's possibly at the time where, not that I can't take them any further or anything like that. I just had a feeling that, we've created such an expectation here that I just felt, I couldn't win, and. It was, and I love that, guys, because you know me more than most, that I actually thrive off the fear of failure, you know, rather than thrive off the trying to win. You know, I thrive off the fear of failure. That's, I mean, people say that's crazy, but I genuinely felt that. And I thought to myself, well, do you know what? The unconventional way is to go overseas when you haven't got a job. So let's do that. You know, you know, I spent a long time at the club and built some unbelievable, you know, friendships and relationships, and ultimately in the end it was, you know, mutually agreed after quite a few discussions that this was best for everyone. So we just packed up and we went and lived in London and re-networked myself, and I took a massive leap of faith, and I thought, well, you know, my age, and you know, I'm going to give it a crack. And so pandemic, no, I ended up getting I ended up speaking to a couple of clubs in England, and then this opportunity come up in Belgium, and the emphasis of that was that, you know, they wanted to change the way they were playing, wanted to change and through our it come about through all our competitions in the ACL and through Asia. We, you know, playing against the Japanese teams, particularly a Japanese company bought the club, and anyway, they want to go down this path. And you know, we arrived there and we, you know, flipped things on its head, and we avoided relegation quite comfortably. You know, when I arrived, they were, and then it was a massive learning point as well, because then, you know, we wanted to continue on the path, and you know, of this football, but obviously there was so much more to the road was only, you know, we just started, we were taking baby steps, and in that summer, you know, recruitment didn't really go as planned, and whilst we were in that, you know, recruitment, you know, one bit of learning, we were pre-season, we prepared so well, you know, pre-season went unbelievably well, and we'd lost one game throughout pre-season. So the people in powers to be thought, well, we don't really need to sign. We can, you know, save some money here. And then, you know, obviously, but the team, we prepared really well and we were going really well. We still needed a little bit of a push, in my view. And ultimately, you know, we didn't bring anyone in because we were so good in pre-season. And I'll tell you what, guys, I'll never win every game in pre-season ever again, mate, because... yeah, the season started and was tough, but from a football perspective, it was sort of divided, because there were certain people that got me to the club that could see, because, you know, ultimately most people only analyse the result. That's just how it is. But the people that got me there could see the building blocks, and you know, even to the point where you know, I was sacked. You know, the three games, the performances were in isolation very, very good. But the results didn't match. So ultimately, there was a little bit of a divide within the club, but would I change it, Gaz? I would. It gave me an opportunity, as I said to you earlier, about the implementation of a vision, the implementation of a style of football. It gave me an opportunity to do that, and for all intents and purposes, it was. I look at it and I think to myself, it was a success. You know, everyone can sit here and say, "Oh, well, you failed," and ultimately, I say, "Well, you know, those speed amps, that moment in time was only a moment in time to ultimately get to me where I want to go." Yeah, and I used it for that, because I look at it and I go, "Well, you know, it was successful because I took so much learnings out of it." So. Yeah, it is what it is, and it was really, really enjoyable time.
Good. I like that. I love the learning aspect of that, because it doesn't matter what you do in life, what walk of life it is. The learnings are in when things don't work. You know,
well, it also, Gaz, it's so, you know, the easiest thing to do, which doesn't cost you any energy or doesn't give you a drive. You can just say, "Oh, well, it's because of him and this was no good and that was no good." And then you're almost like not looking. So I looked at the other way. Well, this was good, and that was good. So, you know, and we've done this well, and you know, so taking the positives out of it, because it takes the same amount of energy to look at a problem, as to look at a solution. So, you know, I'll every day of the week choose to use my energy on looking at the solutions and the positives, and that's just who I've built myself to be.
Good on you. You nudged me before about your first 6 months at St Truden, when you had to be a TD. You go on a coaching journey through your CBA licenses and then go on a pro license, which I think was worth about 15 grand or whatever. And then you want to go and live the dream and coach in Europe. And lo and behold, UEFA says, no, your qualifications are an art to scratch. How does that make you feel? And two, how did you work your way through that to a point where you finally got them to agree to let you coach? I
think I was actually quite lucky. I've not had this conversation with the owners and the CEO, but the fact that the owners were Japanese and the CEO and the sports director were Japanese, when they offered me the job, it's, because they asked me about my licenses, and the assumption was that it qualifies, because in Belgium, if you haven't got the UEFA Pro license, you can't sit on the bench, you can't take interviews, you can't. It's set in stone. So anyway, when eventually the Belgian FA go, well, no, this doesn't get recognised, this licence. I felt there was almost an element of, well, it's discrimination, and the fact that the owners were Japanese, they were, supported me through it. But the first 6 months, I was hindered, because behind closed doors, I could, do most things, and especially within the staff room. But it was a difficult period. But again, it was, I could sit and say, oh, this is the reason and that's the reason. But it taught me so many other things. My communication skills had to be different. So I got so many positive things out of it. Why would I worry about, oh, this is the reason I got sacked? It doesn't enter my thought process. But basically, I had to go through a process because I actually got on the Welsh Pro license. They accepted me on this Welsh Pro license, but in Europe, Wales have to then register the candidates to UEFA. UEFA then come back and says he's not allowed on the pro license because he's not qualified, because you need at least the equivalent of you need the UEFA A, and the AFC Pro is not even the equivalent of the UEFA A. Anyway, so they rejected that. So then I had to go through a process where I had to apply for an interview. So I had to ask for an interview. There's a certain a big criteria that you have to qualify for to be granted this interview. I was granted the interview. I'd done the interview, 2-3 hours of talking football, and the next morning, 2 mornings later, I received what's called a certificate of competence. It's the equivalent to the UEFA Pro license, but it's not the UEFA Pro license. So, but that took 4 months, 5 months, that whole process. So it was very frustrating, because at the same time I'm trying to lead a team here away from relegation. So, but in the end, it all ended well.
Yeah, that's what we like. Good outcomes.
Yeah.
So, what have been some of your most enjoyable moments so far?
I mean, I think you always reference back to when you're successful or when you win things. But I could single-handedly say there's two parts to it. The enjoyable parts now, the process to, as I said, create an environment where people feel they're in the best environment for themselves to be the best possible player they can be. So that for me is one of the most enjoyable parts to it, where people are actually entrusting you and the environment, the program that you're providing for them to become the best they can be. There's no doubt. There's no better feeling. Of course, we can go back to the definition of success. It's successful for everyone is winning. But then when you peel it back, 95% of people will be the result. And then, underneath that, there's the layers of, the process and, that side of success for me, picking something up and continue on something and trying to better something in terms of the way, we play and the enjoyment you give people is a huge part. And the other side goes, I can reflect on one moment and it wasn't, until the second championship I won as against for victory. I really that year there was the first time really it dawned on me, because I was now well entrenched at the club and managing a great wide range of people and had relationships with every department in the football club. And it was only then that year there where I actually, because as a player, you win something, mate, you have a night out and it's great. And then the team gets dispersed and it's never the same team again. So you move on to the next one. But the joy that I could actually see and how much it meant to other people that weren't directly involved with the day-to-day football program. You know, the staff that were working tirelessly in the office, you know, whether that's selling membership or answering phones or, you know, working with the media, whatever it was. I actually got to absorb that, you know, leading up to the finals, you know, and then the grand final, and then the amount of work, you know, that people went through to make sure that, you know, the most important people, the players and the staff, that their families are there and all that. And, you know, what about these people? You know, who's underneath supporting them? And then that was possibly, you know, it dawned on me. I had a greater respect for, not respect, I had a greater effect for what it meant to other people. You know, and as a player, you don't recognise that, and I didn't recognise that. And I possibly didn't recognise it the first time, but you know, addressing the fans after the game, and you know, seeing all the staff members that, you know, and that's, you know, Victory do that unbelievably well. That, you know, all the staff members and their partners were up at the game, and there was a shortage of hotel, like it was just carnage, and seeing them being able to enjoy the moment also, but make them, from there on in, you know, make them understand that they were part of this. You know, they just weren't employees. You know, you're a person in the organisation, and you know, at this moment right here, right now, you're just as important as the guy, you know, who scored the goal, or the guy who saved the goal, or whatever it is. You know, you're just important, and that gave me a different perspective of, you know, what enjoyment it brings to so many people.
Yeah, I like that a lot. On the downhill running, mate, couple of questions to go. One's really about culture. I think I read an article by by you, or maybe it was the Yokohama president, that the club, when you got the gig, they told you that they had a football philosophy. So they employed you to keep that philosophy going. Is that the some people call the Ange ball, but it's more than that, because they don't want what Ange had. They want to grow and improve that. Was that cultural thing really evident when you started? And how do you go about growing that?
Without doubt, Gaz. And I mean, I went through a process. You know, a couple of interviews in getting the job, and it wasn't something that you were told prior to the interview. But I'm not naive, and I've done quite a bit of research, and like I said, I'm, you know, been, you know, watching the team and more and more Japanese football since Ange arrived. So I was well versed on, and that's why I felt really comfortable about. And obviously come across that way in the interview, because I really felt that within, and that, you know, they're on a certain path here, and it's so enjoyable to everybody. It's so enjoyable to the fans, and it's so enjoyable to the players. It's so enjoyable. You know, Japanese football are proud of you know, what Ange has done and what Yoko. So I knew that was the case, and it was actually it was actually nice to know that, you know, you're being interviewed here based on, you know, not what your philosophy is. It's based on, you know, what the football club's philosophy is and the vision that they outline. Because if it wasn't aligned with mine, then I wouldn't be sitting here. There's no hesitation in me saying that. But having then got the job and then arriving here and then speaking to anyone that you speak to, you actually feel it, guys. You feel it. You know, you can see it, but, you know, greater than that, you can feel it. You know, they really, you know, want you to, you know, play an attacking brand of football, but a certain style of attacking football as well, guys, because you know, we were an attacking team. You know, to use as an example, we were an attacking team at Victory. we were really, really aggressive and really, direct. I'm not saying long, but I'm saying we were very aggressive and direct. Where it's a different attack in football here, where we want to dominate the ball, and then you get here and you go, well, the president says, well, you're coming and you're not here to do what we've done. You're here to continue and grow what we've done, as you mentioned, and you start thinking of ways to do that. And then there was some metrics that as a group we sat down and I wanted to try and improve in certain areas, certain areas where we have the ball and those type of things. And then going back to what we discussed earlier, that's only normal, guys. I wasn't daunted by that, because it comes back to the evolution that we spoke about. If you stand still, someone's catching you up and taking you and going past you. So now, of course, it's a big task, obviously, to be able to grow that. But it's not something that you want to grow drastically overnight. There's small little increments, small little steps that you can do to grow that. And personnel as well. We've lost some players, so things might look a little bit different based on the characteristics of the individuals. But underpinning all that, the principles of this football club will be a legacy of Ange going on for many years, I hope.
Well, let's hope it's the legacy of Ange and Muscat as well. That'd be a good combo for Japanese and Australian football.
Trying to contribute, as I'm trying to contribute.
All right, mate. Final question. If you had one piece of wisdom you could give to coaches that are on their journey, maybe well down on the path, just starting, but if there was one piece of wisdom that you could share with coaches, what would that be?
Trying to think of something that I've been through firsthand myself. So it's actually information that I've found useful. So then it's been lived through. Yeah. I think that the bit of wisdom for me is, there was a moment in time where I realised this is how I want to play. This is what I want to do. I want to be a coach, and this is how I want to play. And then find out what your beliefs are, what your non-negotiable, what this is the way you want to play. Dedicate everything you can to making your belief unshakable in how you want to go about things, how you want to be perceived, how you want to be seen, because nowadays we talk, people talk about, my philosophy and this and that. And I go, I shouldn't really need to read your dissertation and your philosophy as to know what your philosophy is. I should just be able to watch your team. And I go, well, this is Gaz's philosophy, because I can see it last week, this week, next week. And then, so it's not written in words, because if that was the case, anybody can really do it. So for me is, find out what your unshakable belief, is in the way you want to play the game, and dedicate yourself to leaving no stone unturned into getting the best you can possibly be. What are the, I've done it myself. I've gone back and I've, draw up, 4, 5, 6, 7 pillars. And I say, right, this, I'm pretty good at that, and pretty good at that, and to be able to bring my belief as strong as possible, and then work on the ones that maybe you're not so good at, to be able to increase and improve that. Because, as I said earlier, if you stand in front of a group and you haven't got an unshakable belief in what you're just about to talk about, you're wasting your breath. Because the dressing room is an uncompromising place. Any classroom is an uncompromising place. You'll be seen right through, and like I said, you'll be wasting your time. But on the flip side, if things don't go so well and something's not going great, you've always got that foundation, that unshakable belief in something to fall back on. Right? Let's get back to there. This is what I believe in. This is what we're going to do. This is how to do it. And then when you come back and you address a group again, there's all of a sudden you're taking everybody on a journey with you. So if there's anything, for me, find out what that unshakable belief is, and dedicate, everything you've got to be able to transfer that information to a group of people.
What a wonderful place for us to leave that today. Kevin Muscat, arigato.
Thank you very much, guys. I've enjoyed it immensely. Thank you.
Thanks, Muskie. If you'd enjoyed today's podcast and want to learn more about Football Coaches Australia, want to become a member, renew a membership, please visit footballcoachesorg.au. This show today has been brought to you by Football Coaches Australia and Making Media, the podcast professionals. Have a great day.